Today's episode is brought to you by the Holistic Musician Academy. That is my coaching space for artists and creatives. Whether you're just starting out and figuring things out on your own, or you've got bigger resources backing you, there's something that meets you where you are at my coaching space. There's a free training, there's a self-paced course, and deeper mentorship options depending on what you need. This September, I'm opening up my group coaching program after 6 months of keeping folks on the waiting list. I've kept people on the waiting list for almost 6 months now. It was not me playing hard to get. I've been on tour for the better half of the year, and I wanted to take as much time I needed to finally offer something that I can with a clean conscience. With all the coaching offers out there, I've really had to dig deep to make sure that whatever it is I'm offering at the Holistic Musician Academy is something in alignment to my true inner values. It's something I know I really stand behind. holisticmusicianacademy.com. And now, without much further ado, on to today's podcast episode.
In a world where 70,000 freaking tracks a day are going up on Spotify, in a world where you're getting paid 0.0007th of a cent for every stream, in a world where if you tell that cafe owner that you don't want to play for tips, that 50 other artists are going to line up and take that gig, you might want to figure out where money can come from, still allowing you to do the thing that gives you the joy and the pleasure and gets you out in front of people, and figure out the monetization when you're not coming from a place of sheer desperation.
Hello, and welcome back to another solo cast. That little excerpt you heard was from my dear friend, Ariel Hyatt, founder of the legendary PR group Cyber PR, based out of Brooklyn, New York, who I actually had the honor of working for back in the day. It's a statement that's probably made one of the most powerful cases for the multi-hyphenate artist, also known as the portfolio career and the likes. There's something brewing in the arts. You can feel it in the language you use, the bios we write, the number of hats we wear just to justify our existence as artists. Producer slash DJ slash yogi slash coach, musician slash podcast host slash designer slash entrepreneur. Guilty as charged, Your Honor, by the way, in case anyone was pointing fingers at me. Either way, on a lot of days, it would seem like the more slashes, the better, right? That's kind of what we call this whole multi-hyphenate identity. Here's the problem with it all, though. Too often, it's a branding strategy, camouflaging an existential crisis. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong per se with wearing multiple hats, but there is something wrong with forgetting why we picked them up in the first place. Let's discuss. Welcome to another session solo cast. These solo casts were designed to help independent artists and musicians like you navigate the very complex labyrinth that is your artistic practice and career. They're based on empirical research and experiences of my own career as an independent musician and an educator and coach working with artists just like you. The primary aim behind these sessions is to offer accessibility to the kind of education many of us need to work with in order to forward ourselves in these very confusing times as empowered and independent artists in the truest sense of the word. So, what is a multi-hyphenate? A multi-hyphenate creative is someone who straddles multiple creative or professional identities. Musician slash producer slash coach, writer slash healer slash speaker, and so on. The hyphens are meant to celebrate fluidity, but more often than not, they reveal fragmentation. Originally, this archetype emerged in response to changing work culture, the collapse of single discipline careers, the rise of digital gig economies, the algorithmic imperative to do more, show more, be more. And sure, for some, it's a conscious choice, rooted in polymath curiosity and integrated practice. But for others, it's just what happened when survival met branding, when art had to be monetized before it was metabolized. The mirage of the multi-hyphenate is not to be underestimated. In theory, the multi-hyphenate is a Renaissance soul, fluid, liberated, adaptable. But in practice, it's often a response to economic precarity masked as empowerment. The streaming economy is broken. Spotify pays peanuts per stream. Touring for musicians and artists and speakers can be financially and emotionally taxes, and grants, depending on the countries any of you listeners might be coming from, are coveted, saturated, and often politicized, more often than not, actually, politicized. So, artists diversify, which is fine, but then they fragment and end up wondering why their work feels hollow, their careers directionless, and what began as a survival tactic often becomes a spiritual distraction. Let's address an elephant in the room here, which a lot of us aren't even noticing. Depth versus breadth. The unspoken trade-off involved. It's something a lot of us don't want to admit. Depth and breadth are inversely proportionate. That's not just poetic, it's physics. Academics and experts and scientists, foundational voices in psychology, have emphasized that attention is a limited resource, and when split across too many tasks or identities, the depth of focus and therefore mastery declines. To go deep, you have to say no to a few things. To go wide, you risk never touching the marrow of your art, of your being. That's not elitism, that's mechanics. The problem isn't the day job, it's the narrative. Let's destigmatize something right now. Having a day job doesn't make you less of an artist. In fact, according to a 2023 census-wide survey, 88% of musicians do not earn their full-time living from music alone. So the transitory stage is real and often necessary. But here's the caveat. Most of us never move beyond it. Not because we lack talent, but because we've absorbed a myth that if you love something, it should hurt. Or that asking to be paid compromises the work's purity. That being quote-unquote too professional makes you a sellout. These are not inherent truths. They're just inherited scripts from systems designed to keep artists broke and obedient. The whole I don't want to sell, and I hear this often from artists I coach, from peers I respect, even mentors I've looked up to. And I get it. We've been conditioned to believe that selling our art taints it. But could we get honest about the definitions for a minute? Selling means offering your work to those who need it. Selling out means compromising your values to be liked or paid. They're not the same. In fact, if anything, refusing to sell your work because of internalized shame is not integrity. It's just being an amateur, to be honest, and potentially self-sabotage in some noble disguise. When transition becomes a lifestyle, it can end up being a trap for the practicing artist. I'll just keep this job till my music takes off, you think. And you blink and it's been 10 years. What started as a bridge becomes a trap. Unfortunately, most artists never received training on how to cross that bridge, how to build sustainable systems, price their services, or grow audiences without burning out. The result? Generations of artists caught between devotion and survival, haunted by the illusion that they must choose one or the other. So, what's the way out? Well, truth be told, there is no formula, no cookie-cutter methodologies anyone can offer you. But there are frameworks, and I'd bet some of these are universal one way or the other. In my humble opinion, it begins with asking the harder, braver questions. For example, am I creating from clarity or from compensation? Think about that one. Do I know the difference between a practice and performance? What does performance even mean to you? Am I living as an artist or just cosplaying one on the weekends? Ooh, that's a big one. It's not about purity. It's about alignment. It's not about asceticism. It's about awareness. If you want to walk the artist's path with integrity, yes, you'll need craft. But you also need contracts, pricing sheets, calendars, boundaries, infrastructure, strategies. The kind of words you probably didn't sign up to be dealing with, but do need to have a certain skill set for somewhere down the line. Final thoughts. Here's the thing. Not everyone who plays a few chords is an artist. Not everyone who dabbles with color is a painter. That's not criticism. It's an invitation for you to slow down, go deep, and question if you're building something or not, and if yes, what that is, who it's for, and what the intentionality behind that is. This isn't about gatekeeping. It's about, I'll say, root keeping, maintaining your roots, building your roots, planting those roots, planting those seeds, watching those roots grow. Not sure that came out right, but hopefully you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to get at. And those of us who've chosen this full-time, sometimes at a great cost, aren't interested in protecting an elite club. We're really just trying to keep the fire alive, which at the end of the day is a lot more work, and it's actually a job that deserves its due respect. The multi-hyphenate identity can be powerful when chosen consciously, but also overwhelming. And when it's a response to burnout, scarcity, or cultural pressure, it can erode the very core of your artistry and catch up quickly with what you were running away from in the first place. So yeah, maybe some form of diversification is necessary, but let's please not confuse that with fragmentation. And this might hurt, but practicing an art part-time does not automatically make everyone a professional artist. Yes, creative hobbies are beautiful. They matter. Practicing art as a healing modality after a hard day's work is not just legit, but a very valid reason to be involved in it. I help people do this. I have clients who would fit that definition. But there's a difference between dabbling and devotion, as high-handed as that sounds, and the multi-hyphenate label can be a hiding place for discrepancy in quality. And fun fact, there are artists from some of the lowest income demographics of the globe who've given their entire lives fearlessly to this path. They started early, they slept on floors between gigs, they invested in conservatory degrees and street education, and invested in financial, physical, and emotional sacrifice. That's not hollow pride, it's context, and a gap in this whole Renaissance narrative. Being an artist is a job, and being a full-time artist is not always a fallback. It's not a side hustle for everyone. It's a vocation, a way of life, a purpose, not just a quote-unquote way to make a living, and it demands clarity, resilience, and respect. And that needs to come from the artist first. So, the multi-hyphenate model, does it work? Yeah, it could, but only when it's rooted in values, rooted in clarity, and I keep repeating myself when I say this, but I will keep banging on about this as well, rooted in intentionality, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Not fear, not algorithms. These cannot be your guiding light. That would just be the different side of the same problem. We also need to take a minute to understand dedication. Some of us don't want to be multi-hyphenates. We're deep-rooted, and this is a reminder to those of you who identify with that this is absolutely okay. If you're building a sustainable life around your devotion to the arts, you are not alone. It can be done, but the process is just a lot more complex than most of us realize. It takes a lot more understanding than most artists invest into. A lot more work than most conservatories or music teachers teach their students. And last but not the least, time. It takes time. Then there's belief mismatches. What exactly is the problem here? It's not just the industry, it's the mindset artists have absorbed that true devotion means suffering, that asking to be paid is selling out, that charging for services is evil, that not understanding the math behind your rates and income streams is okay. It's not. And generally speaking, just this overall vibe of winging it as artist life. These beliefs don't make an artist noble, or even a multi-hyphenate for that matter. They just make you an amateur. Yes, ouch indeed. True independence, we keep go on banging on about independent artistry and the independent music scene and the art scene. You want to be independent, then my invitation to you is learn how a business works, even if it contradicts the romantic ideas you might have been sold. True, you're not just a business, but if you are dependent on your food and shelter for your artistic services, you also are one by default, whether you like it or not. Knowing how to price, pitch, package, and protect your work is not the opposite of art. It's what makes your art a profession, and how successful you will be in it is not even a relevant question before you've unpacked its intricacies. So, if you are asking yourself, what am I, a business now? Yes? No? Maybe? Wait, you only wanted one of those answers? No problem. But hey, you're the one who chooses the answer to that. Nobody gets to do that for you. And that's the good news. It's also the bad news. And if you're wondering if having a day job is something you ought to be ashamed of, my reply to that is nobody gets to shame you without your permission. So I would ask myself, are you permitting them? Are you permitting them to shame you? That's what I would be asking. The transitory stage is often a necessary and honorable part of the journey. But the deeper truth is, while the data is vague, less than 15% of musicians earn their full-time income from music alone, according to the research I did. And as aforementioned, many of us just stay stuck in the transition, not because of lack of talent, but because no one actually taught us how to move forward with intention and actually build our careers. So no, don't be ashamed, but don't get comfortable either. Make that day job a phase, not a forever. And if you're still worried about selling out, let's distinguish. Selling, again, means offering your work to the people who need it. Selling out means compromising your values to please someone else. They are not the same. One is sustainability with integrity. The other is survival at the cost of it. The problem is not that artists are selling. The problem is that you probably don't even realize that you sell when you charge for your work, and are not a professional if you don't. And you've probably never learned how to offer your skills ethically due to the history of middlemen throughout industrial history. I know, that sucks. But if you're overwhelmed and are asking yourself, where do you even start with all of this? I'm glad you asked. Here are a few actionable steps. If you're ready, make a note of these, go back, rewind these, write them down, because I'm going to give you something you can actually work with. Ready? Okay, number 1, write down your core values as an artist. Revisit regularly. Number 2, audit your income streams. Where's your money actually coming from? Number 3, learn one new business skill this month. Pricing, licensing, audience building. Number 4, do the math on how much money you've actually invested in your art to determine what you think you deserve to be paid for your services. There is no shame in that. It's actually a very basic business skill. Every other profession does it. Number 5, ask this. Are you making choices from alignment or from fear? And number 6, what are these fears? Who has instilled them into you? Final thoughts for the day? There's no tidy solution to this conversation. The tension between sacred calling and making a sustainable living as an artist is real. You will contradict yourself. You will outgrow ideas you once defended. You'll make peace with complexity or burn out trying to resolve it. So, let this be a reminder. You're allowed to build your practice on purpose and still question everything. That's not weakness. It's gathered experience and at some point, maybe even wisdom. Hope that helps.
Hey folks, I hope you found that episode helpful. Here's a little request. If you did, consider sharing this episode with your folks. Think about the ways in which they might benefit the way you did. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have queries. My name's TL. I'm an independent musician and educator and the founder of the Holistic Musician Academy.